everyone, welcome to Talk, Listen, Share, a Shay's Warriors Life After Cancer online educational program. Shay's Warriors is a 501c3 nonprofit with an all-volunteer board of directors that was formed in the Coachella Valley to help our cancer community thrive after treatment is over. The mission of Shay's Warriors is to inspire, inform, and empower through health, fitness, and the mind-body connection, to heal survivors and their families through a national network of support. Our Talk, Listen, Share community was formed as part of our online educational outreach to support each other through survivorship and thrivership. TLS is hosted by our committee members every second and fourth Wednesday of the month.
Okay, so welcome to Talk, Listen, Share. Tonight we have our special guest, Dr. Mo, and Marissa is going to introduce the topic, and Dr. Mo.
Thanks, Sonia. So today we're talking about skin health and skin cancer prevention. And I myself have a lot of experience with that, having been an esthetician for about 20 years. But we're very happy to have Dr. Mo with us tonight. I have actually worked with Dr. Mo since 2005. He's a board-certified plastic surgeon. He came to Cosmetic Surgery Institute of Palm Desert in 2005 and then took over the practice in 2007. Dr. Mo specializes in plastic surgery for the face, body, and breast, and his practice also offers high-quality, non-surgical options for patients. His focus is on providing exceptional experiences and beautiful results. Dr. Mo has also been certified by the American Board of Plastic Surgery since 2003. He's a member of the American Medical Association. He performed his medical internship and residency in Los Angeles before his plastic surgery fellowship, training, and chief residency in Salt Lake City. So we're really happy to have Dr. Mo. He's not only my boss, but he's a wonderful friend that I've known for many years. So welcome, Dr. Mo.
Thank you, Mari. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So we're just going to jump into some questions that we feel that, are really important right now. And I think will speak to a lot of people, not only cancer survivors, but anyone that just, has either been exposed to skin cancer or maybe a family member has had melanoma. I know for myself, my father had melanoma, so this is very important to me. So one of the first questions, we know that there's a lot of skincare products out there, and the clean and non-toxic skincare is a fast-growing industry, but there's a lot of chemical sunscreens out there. So there's things that we, find that we do maybe want to avoid: parabens, PAHs, petroleum, fragrance, all these things that are hormone disruptors. So what do you think, Dr. Mo, we should look for in non-toxic or clean skincare products?
So thank you. That's a great question, Marissa. There's two basic types of sunscreens. You have a chemical barrier or you have a functional barrier. And I have always been a big proponent of the functional barriers. And the two main functional barriers are titanium and zinc. Those two are excellent, and they're non-toxic, and but more importantly, they don't tend to wash off or sweat off as much as the other types of sunscreens. So if you're sports related, kind of swimming, surfing, hiking, skiing, things like that, you don't have to keep applying as often. You still have to keep applying them, but not as often as the chemical barriers. And then, if they, for example, get into your eyes, we have all experienced that, where, your eyes kind of burn and get irritated and things like that. So.
Okay, great. And I mean, I think top tips for skin cancer prevention is really probably number one would be obviously sunscreen. What other things do you recommend for preventing skin cancer?
Well, it's interesting because skin cancer is kind of like a iceberg, and when it comes to pop out, you're looking at the tip of the iceberg coming up, and realistically, the amount of sun damage that we get starts at the first time you're a kid or a baby where you get sunburned, and then that sort of becomes programmed into your genes, and it just the gene telomere or the tail of the gene sort of starts to slowly unravel, and then it kind of builds up on itself, like if you're going to go to prom or some kind of a Sadie Hawkins dance, and you know how you lay out and get sunburned, or go to Cancun or Cozumel, whatever. And all of these sunburn events add up, unfortunately, till really they kind of start coming out at the age of 50 or 60, and so really sun protection must be started at a very early age. They had a epidemic of melanoma in Australia, and this was very well documented, where with the Aussie hats and everything, they were able to pretty much knock that out of the ballpark. And so I think the biggest tip in sun damage protection is we have to all start with protecting our young and our babies at a very young age, with definitely sunscreen. But also what really, really helps is to wear sun sleeves or the type of UV protection clothing when they're in the pool, and hats. And all of these events sort of become ingrained into that child, and then they in turn start to protect themselves, really as a matter of subconscious habit, more than anything else.
Yeah, I agree. I think children now, they're much more savvy when it comes to skincare. Maybe some
Absolutely.
of it not always good because everything they kind of see is TikTok and all of that type of thing. But they're better about putting sunscreen than I think we were. So,
A- Absolutely. Absolutely. And
so
um, the other thing I have to point out also is, people that live in high altitude towns, or they go high altitude hiking and skiing and things like that. That's also very important, because the cold air hitting your skin is an added factor. And also, even on cloudy days, for example, there's the ultraviolet rays are that much more amplified, and you really have to be careful. I don't know if any of you have gotten sunburned on a cloudy day. It's almost worse than on a sunny day.
So true. Yeah, you can still get sunburn on a cloudy day, or even when you're, in your office, those rays are still coming through windows, in
Yep.
your car. I often hear that patients say, well, I don't go out. I don't need to wear it, but you're still in the car, you're running a quick errand, you're still getting sun. So,
Mhm.
kind of talking about the burning, how often do you recommend that you should reapply sunscreen if you're out for a long period of time hiking or skiing, something like that?
Well, hopefully, if you're wearing zinc and titanium sunscreens, you can reapply every 4 hours or so. The good thing with zinc and titanium is it's a physical barrier, so you can actually see what's covered and what's not covered. So let's say, the most important areas are your nose and the lower lips, because, the sun shines, the ultraviolet rays shine down, or your, forehead. And also the crown of the head is very important, where, a lot of people don't even think about that, but that's a very important exposed area. So it's just a matter of paying attention once in a while. And ears, yes, absolutely. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot that. So it's a matter of paying attention and looking at those areas and seeing if the physical barrier is getting faded. Then it's time to reapply. And it all depends. I mean, if you're out by the pool, then obviously your shoulders may be exposed, and you need to definitely cover your shoulders. One of the biggest problems that I run into is if I, for example, do liposuction on someone or breast reconstruction on them, any of those surfaces that have been operated upon, the skin is very, very sensitive. It stays sensitive for over 1 year. And so I always tell the patients, be careful, because if you step out into the sun just for 5 minutes, you get fried. And I've had patients actually come in after a tummy tuck, they laid out and they got third-degree sunburns.
Mm. Well, and that brings to a good point, like post radiation or post chemotherapy, obviously the skin is very sensitive, so it makes it even more important to wear that physical sunscreen.
Yeah, and I, I honestly, I don't even risk it. Just don't step out into direct sunlight. You're okay to be out under an umbrella, but even if it gets too hot, it starts to bother their skin, and so that's just something that you definitely don't want to risk. The other issue that a lot of people don't account for is if you're going to be out and about in the sun, even, for example, if you have a physical sunscreen on, if you're drinking anything with citrus in it, let's say, even if you're drinking water with a twist of lemon or lime, um, or obviously like a margarita or anything like that, if you get that lemon or lime, that citrus or vitamin C on your skin, that activates in the sun, and that also will cause a second-degree sun damage. So that's always one thing I tell people is, when you're out and about, be careful and always wash your hands, and make sure when you squeeze any kind of citrus in a drink, don't be careful with the splatter.
Hmm, I never knew that. That's interesting. Any favorite sunscreen products that you recommend?
Honestly, I don't necessarily want to name brands,
Mhm.
but I'll keep it general. I love, obviously, our SkinCeuticals brand of sunscreens. The ones that have titanium in them better, because it's more skin colored. It's got a little bit of tan to it, versus uh, zinc that is sort of whitish, and it makes you kind of look faded out or ghostly. There's, I personally, and this is something that women may not relate to this, but men in general, we don't like greasy things all over our hands. And so the sunscreens that I always use are like in the form of a chapstick that I can just kind of bring it out and put it on my nose or put it on my forehead or my cheeks. And those are usually sports sunscreens that you can purchase at any kind of ski shop or surf shop or anything like that. But as long as it's a physical barrier sunscreen, I think you're good to go.
Yeah, and there are a lot of sunscreens out there, that you mentioned that have a little bit of color or tint. So, if you're from, post chemo or radiation and you've got a lot of redness in your skin, that can kind of even out your skin
Yep.
tone a little bit,
Yep.
and just make you feel a little bit better and actually help with that redness too.
Yep.
Um,
Absolutely.
and we didn't really touch on this, but like sun SPF, there's SPF 100, 58, 48. How do you explain the SPF rating? Because I think sometimes patients think if it's 100, it's great. I can go and be in Hawaii and I only put it on in the morning and I'm good for the whole day.
Yeah. That's a really good question. So, it's not a direct correlation. You know how when the graph goes up like this, it's not direct. It's more kind of parabolic. It dies out towards the end. And what you have to realize is sunscreen with a sun protection factor or SPF of 30 already gives you 95% protection from ultraviolet rays. So that literally means for 100, like if you got 100 ping pong balls coming down being ultraviolet rays, 95 of those get blocked out, 5 of them will hit you. Okay, so that's SPF 30. You can go up to SPF 50 or SPF 70, but really that only gives you about 3% more. So, I mean, you can reach SPF 90, you can reach 98% protection, but you'll never reach 100% protection. So, I mean, I always tell my patients SPF 30 is enough. Don't, the rest of it is all marketing, is overkill. And it may be that, they charge more for the higher the SPF, but yeah, SPF 30 is about as good as it gets. So.
Okay, great. How do you recognize abnormal skin changes, like especially around or near surgical sites when you see your patients?
The majority of times, if you have an area that pops up and it sort of kind of bleeds and then it heals and then it kind of bleeds again and then it scabs and heals. If an area does that, then especially on a site where cancer has been removed, if that area does that once, I'm going to biopsy it, and I'm very, very careful to biopsy it with good margins and to make sure to take generous margins. If you biopsy something and you take too small of a margin and one of your margins is positive, that could be that you've already caused harm by causing the cancer cells to get inside the blood supply. So you want to take very generous margins. And the other thing that I always look out for is really any kind of abnormalities that occurs on the scar line, whether it be a mole, whether it be a one of those little red cherry hemangiomas, anything that kind of pops up on or close to that scar, I sample it and I biopsy it. And also, if for example somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, I got a mole on my shoulder and it just came up," or "I got a mole on my scalp and it just came up," all of a sudden I biopsy that. Or if they have a mole that all of a sudden gets bigger or the margins become irregular, then I want to biopsy that. Or if they have a mole that looks okay, but then like a little black dot appears in the center of it, I want to biopsy that. And then the general rule is if you have a mole that is larger than the end of a number 2 pencil, you want to have it checked out and most likely you want to have it, biopsied if it starts to act different.
Okay, great. And I think like yearly, check-ins with your dermatologist, like all that is super important. I think just going and getting that body scan and having them look from head to toe can catch a lot of things early too.
Yeah, absolutely. And the body scan is really amazing. Digital photography has really advanced, and so it takes a dedicated, usually it takes a dedicated dermatology institute or a melanoma institute to have a body scan because they're pretty expensive pieces of equipment. And for those of you who may not know what they are, it's you go and stand on top of a little X, and then there's a camera, digital camera that goes 360 degrees around you, and then every single mole on your body becomes deposited electronically onto the computer algorithm, and then the size, the color, the variability of the edges of the moles, everything is recorded, and that way you have a standardized view of your full body. And then every 6 to 12 months the computer can analyze all of the moles on your body.
That's great. I didn't know there was something like that. So
Yeah.
that's really great. I know one of our questions is kind of going back to like reapplication, but I think sometimes we don't put enough sunscreen on. We might take just a little dime size, and I have heard a shot glass is for like your whole, I believe for your whole body. Yes, for your whole body. So if you think of a little shot glass, that's how much sunscreen you would need for your whole entire body. So it kind of puts it into perspective. I know myself, I sometimes don't put on enough. But I think that is also like really important, just making sure that you have enough sunscreen on the area too.
Yes.
So going back to patients with the dry skin post radiation chemotherapy, what do you feel like is, and again, we don't have to go through like brands or anything, but something good for the best moisturizer or anything to kind of protect their skin after?
Well, so so that's a tricky question, and I'll be very honest with you. I have not been in the academic arena for 20 years, and even in preparation for this Zoom conference, I tried to reach out to some of my dermatology colleagues, but nobody was available to really talk to them regarding the issue of irradiation or therapy. The problem with irradiation is that you're essentially, that area that's irradiated has had its vasculature knocked out, its lymphatics knocked out, its nerves knocked out, everything. So that area is slowly, turning into scar tissue. So I don't have a good answer for you on that, except for the fact that you don't really want to put chemical barriers on there, or even petroleum based barriers. I would definitely say something that is water based. And Marissa, you may be able to speak to that better than me. I would definitely stay away from anything chemical. And the same thing with chemotherapy, because if you think about it, when you have an area that's active with chemotherapy agents, essentially those agents are living, breathing inside the skin cells. And so any kind of other chemical may react with them, and may react in a kind of a bad way to make the chemotherapy agent that much stronger, or to burn the skin. And So I don't really, I don't have the expertise, and I don't feel comfortable answering that question. And unfortunately, I didn't get, you know, any input from any of my dermatology colleagues, but I'll be happy to follow up with that as soon as I hear back from anybody. But that's as far as really, I
Yeah.
mean, honestly, you ladies would be able to maybe add to this much more than me.
Yeah. I mean, I know for like when I've treated patients, like obviously, like you said, just no chemical, very gentle, without, perfumes, fragrances, just more of a hydrating, soothing type of treatment for them because
Yeah,
the
yeah.
skin is so dry. It's super
Hmm.
dry, it's sensitive. So I think anything to kind of calm the skin, I think is helpful. I think it's
Hmm.
good to put something on the skin, but just being careful of what's being put on.
Yeah, I mean, I almost would say like something like Aquaphor or any kind of, and honestly, if you're going to put on any type of essential oils or even aloe vera may be too stringent, for that kind of skin, and so you have to really be careful. I actually have had patients come in with full blown allergic reaction or a rash on their incision, and after questioning them, they're like, yeah, my grandmother gave me a aloe vera leaf, and I've been squeezing the gel out of it and putting it on, but it's just, for that amount of fresh trauma, it's just too early, so you have to really be careful.
Would you say like just, like you were saying that you like the SPF clothing or just having some type of like physical barrier versus something on like something topical on the skin would be better?
Absolutely. And even at that, you have to be really careful. You have to wear loose SPF
Loosely.
clothing in order to make sure that the seams don't rub. And yes, that's a great idea for sure.
Mhm. And then just one more question. The role of vitamin D and niacinamide. Do you have anything to add on that for skin cancer prevention?
Yes. So definitely niacinamide and vitamin D are antioxidants, and they're very strong antioxidants. And they will literally keep the cells in our skin, and they will help to protect the collagen that is remaining in our skin. And by the way, starting at the age of 30, we lose 1% of our collagen per year. So, you once you get to the point where you have lost about 30 to 40% of your collagen, that's when you see people, they have thin skin, and if they hit the door or something, they bruise, and so you really, that's where the you know the antioxidants and also the phyto products come into play, and those are, there's a lot of research going on, and so those are so promising. It's really exciting to have things like that coming to fruition within our lifetime.
Absolutely. I think that's the thing is we're so lucky to have there's so much out there. And so but thank you for answering all of these questions and sharing your knowledge. This has been really great to have you on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Appreciate it. It's an honor.
thank you.
All right. So if anybody has any questions that weren't answered tonight, please feel free to post them, put them on our website. We will definitely get back to you. We know that skin care, post-treatment radiation surgery is important to you, as well as those of you that have had skin cancer from basal cell to squamous cell to melanoma, and obviously melanoma being pretty scary. The role of vitamin D is always controversial. as far as supplementation and things like that go. So we'll just continue to wait for the research on that to come out. But we do know that vitamin D supplies the energy to our target killer cells. So we do want to make sure that we have adequate amounts in our system, especially for our patients that are immunocompromised. So thank you for joining us tonight on another informative Talk, Listen, and Share. We are able to put on this programming through the generosity of our community partners, sponsors, all leading up to our annual I Am Hope retreat coming up soon. For our Cancer Survivors Healing Retreat, where we send survivors at no cost to them. So we aim to help survivors get clear on life after cancer and how to move forward. The retreat will be held in June in the Coachella Valley. It's coming up soon. We'll have 25 women sharing that experience. So if you like what you're learning, please go to our website and click Give to help support our programming. We'll see you all next month on Talk, Listen, and Share. Thank you again, Dr. Mo, for providing your insight and expertise, and Marissa for putting out all those questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Right.
It's an honor.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining. Have a good night, everyone. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.